All right, under further review, back at you. We got episode 2 of our college football talk, and college football playoff picture starting to heat up a little bit. Before we jump into things, I have to introduce who's here today. Obviously, Mike and Steve here, but we're also bringing on Kev this week. Kev's a big Oregon fan, right, Kev?
Yeah, big Oregon fan.
Talking a little Oregon football later when we do our picks. Hint, hint. But yeah, like I said, playoff bracket starting to heat up a little bit. I just want to throw our handles out there before we start talking about the actual college football picture. We're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, obviously we're on YouTube. That's where we post all our episodes in the long form. You can mostly search under further review. I believe this week was, or last episode I should say, was our most active social media episode. We got a lot of feedback on that Ohio State post with Julian saying and the Heisman. I think we were talking about the Heisman and, Ohio State being the most deadly team in college football. And, Ohio State has such a big fan base that they were very involved in that post. So happy to see that. Keep getting involved. Keep commenting on our posts. We definitely respond to everything. But yeah, let's before we get into playoffs, let's talk about what happened in the beginning of the week. And it feels like it was something that was brewing for several weeks now. And we saw some of the rumblings and rumors that were coming about. But James Franklin, after he was let go by Penn State, was hired at Virginia Tech, and he gets to stay on the East Coast. And that's tremendous for the recruiting pipeline that he has built with the Penn State and all the connections that he has right now. But, before I go too in depth, I'll let you guys kind of break down why you think this might be a positive hiring, or if you don't agree with it, you can, let us know why you don't agree with it. But Mike, I know you've been very vocal on the positive side of Virginia Tech signing to a contract, James Franklin. Let's hear why you think it's a positive.
I think it's a slam dunk hire. The Virginia Tech's right in the pipeline where he recruits well. Is an outstanding recruiter. I mean, in-game coach, he leaves a lot to be desired. Let's be completely fair. He recruits well. He'll get Virginia Tech back to where they should be from, the late 2010, early 2010s, I guess, back where they were in contention for, BCS bowls and things like that. I think he'll get them back there. And I think that's what Virginia Tech needs. They've been like a bottom dweller in the ACC. The fact they get a high-profile coach like James Franklin, who, mind you, like the Penn State team, while they underperformed this year, I mean, they were a college football playoff team last year. I mean, we were talking about them as a potential national champion, and now they land him early, mind you. It's not late in the recruiting cycle, early in the recruiting cycle, and gives them an opportunity to pull some of those recruits that he might have brought to Penn State. I mean, they had 17 decommits. I know some have committed to other schools already. I'm assuming that some will commit to Virginia Tech, and he's going to be able to hit the portal hard. It's a slam dunk hire. The guy recruits. That's what Virginia Tech needs. He's going to bring back to prominence.
Yeah, and I saw a graphic today. I believe there's 5 or 6, Penn State recruits that are going down to Blacksburg this weekend to watch the Virginia Tech game, which is huge because they're going down there because they have that connection with the coach. And it feels like with James Franklin, it goes a little deeper than the NIL money that a lot of these athletes are seeking. We saw it last recruiting cycle where he was able to flip some guys last second. And I think that's relationships he kept throughout the entire 2025 cycle. And he was able to seal the deal at the end. And now he's going to have to make up ground late because, the transfer portal is going to be so important. There's a lot of guys that are pretty locked in with their teams already, but he's going to be able to do those flips. He has the Penn State guys out there, obviously. But, Kev, how quick do you think this turnaround could be for James Franklin?
I mean, I think it could be quick especially with the recruits that he's trying to get to come from Penn State that he already had pretty much almost signed. And he builds those relationships. I mean, you see it from all the videos from when players get drafted. He's going to all their houses and he's there for like every player.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. He had that. Who was it that he was at? Was it? And then like literally somehow made it to the other. I forgot about that entirely. That man.
I mean, he shows up for his players. So I mean, a lot of people want to play for him just because of how he acts.
I also think to tie into that, I think Kevin makes a good point. I think that we're going to see players decommit not only from obviously transfer. We saw the 17 decommits from the recruiting. You're going to get players that are going to look to jump ship to go play with him in Virginia Tech. I mean, it's pretty much in the same geographical area, within 6 or 7 hours of each other, I think, if I'm not mistaken. You're going to get a lot of those proven talent. I think you're going to get some recruits, some players that want to transfer over to Virginia Tech, which is going to help accelerate that rebuild. And that's just from the Penn State pipeline. So I think Kevin hit on a good point there about that relationship.
Right. And what you're selling at Virginia Tech. So the atmosphere, we know Enter Sandman. We know what that stadium can be like when it's packed, to the brim on a top 25 showdown. And they continue to show up, those Virginia Tech fans, that they're very passionate about their team. And this was a very poor season. I know a lot of people with drones at quarterback, they had high hopes when he transferred over from Baylor. And his first season at Virginia Tech was a successful one, but the past 2 seasons have not been up to the caliber that you expected from him. And Virginia Tech football, ever since they lost week 1 to South Carolina, just was on a downward spiral. And then they lost 2 weeks later to Old Dominion, and it just never picked up from there. So Virginia Tech football is down in the dumps right now. They needed to make a hire like this. And I think the contract came out today, and it's a pretty generous one for James Franklin, and it's going to put them in the top 5 for paying coaches in college football. And that's an important factor right there to know. I have the graphic somewhere. I'm not going to look around for it right now. I can pull it up in a little bit. But the fact that Virginia Tech's willing to spend money on a coach and a big name coach like this means that they're just fed up with what they've seen in recent memory, and they're ready to turn the page and return to the Frank Beamer days. But let's remember, with Frank Beamer, he was very much what James Franklin was at Penn State in the Big Ten. Couldn't win the big game. Had that team in the top 25 every single season. They were always in a bowl game, but they just couldn't get it done when they were facing someone that was on the same talent level as themselves or a little bit better. So Franklin, he's going to have his work cut out, even if he starts to get these recruits, because we do know who he is as a recruiter. He was very successful at Penn State, always in the top 15 in the nation recruiting. But, he could get Penn State to the playoff, but that was a bigger program. That was a Big Ten program right there. You knew what type of talent was coming in every year at Penn State. It's what, I hate to throw this name out there, what Paterno built, over the years. Not a great name drop, but can't take away what Penn State became as a football program under Joe Paterno. It was a powerhouse. And, Franklin continued what Bill O'Brien and Mike, we talked about this a little bit about how impressive a job Bill O'Brien did that first year out of all that mess with Sandusky and everything. And he was able to keep them a winning program, and Franklin just continued it. And what was it? Half the years he was at Penn State, he won over 10 games, something like that.
I think, yeah, it was around. I was just looking that up. Yeah, it was like half his seasons there. It was a 10-win season. I mean, what he did at Penn State, he was a good coach. Did he win the big game? No, but he was a very good coach. He solidified the team there. And I think we could all be honest here with ourselves. I think the ACC is a softer conference, and I honestly expect him to be able to do more than he did at Penn State. And I'm actually looking here at because this is the first time I'm seeing his contract. They're committing, the ACC is predominantly not one of those conferences outside of Clemson and Miami. They don't commit a ton of money to coaches. They committed, $42 million over 4 years to him. But I'm looking here, they committed $9.5 million for him to hire staff. And that's just your defensive coordinator and your offensive coordinator. That's a lot of money to hire staff. And then on top of that, they're giving him an additional $6 million to hire supplemental staff. We're talking a real legitimate Big Ten coaching staff, or even SEC coaching staff in the ACC. There's only schools that I think even come close to that are going to be Clemson and Miami. I mean, he's going to be able to, and I'm sure he's going to have any choosing that he wants of OCs and DCs. I'm hoping it's Brent Pry, though, because that would be hilarious if he brings him back.
Well, let's go over the breakdown of this, too. You bring up an important thought with the money, not only for Franklin, but also for his staff as well. So I want you guys to look at the back end of this contract, because Virginia Tech kind of stashed the cash at the end of his contract. So 2026 he'll make $6 million, 27 $5 million, 28 $4 million, and then 29 it jumps up to 12.75 million, and then 2030 13.25 million, and he's still going to make several mil from Penn State over the years, and he has a bunch of incentives if they make the the ACC championship game, if they make the playoff, if he gets coach of the year, he's going to get bonuses. Going off those recent numbers, and including the new Virginia Tech numbers, this is based off USA Today 2024. It would look like this: Ohio State 11.4 mil, Georgia 10.3 mil, Clemson 9.6 mil, Virginia Tech 9.5 mil, and they're talking about assistant coaches. So that's where the number 4 came in. Maybe I was a little off earlier in the episode when I said he would be the 4th highest paid coach. It was they're going to have the 4th biggest salary for assistant coaches, which is huge. He's going to have his pickings for who he wants on the staff, and there's a lot of rumblings of they're going to get the current head coach at Old Dominion, Ricky Rain, to become their offensive coordinator, which a lot of people are saying that quarterback from Old Dominion is going to come over, who's thrown for 20 touchdown passes this year and has rushed for over 700 yards, which that's a heck of a season right there. But also, we were talking about recruits this weekend. Penn State, so I guess former recruits or maybe guys that are still recruited to Penn State: Matt Sieg, Pierce Peterson, Marlon Bright, Benjamin Azika, I don't know how to say his name, and Matthew Lama. They're all coming to Virginia Tech this weekend. Sorry if I butchered names. But you got to think that like maybe 2 or 3 of those guys might commit this weekend, right?
Yeah. I mean, they're coming out, like I said, and I expect him to wholeheartedly steal recruits. Yeah, no, I wouldn't be shocked if all of them committed, to be completely transparent. I think that there's a reason why they're the first ones coming out, right? I mean, Franklin has a relationship with them. I'm sure he's kept in contact with them. I mean, it's not, I know Penn State, a lot of fans of Penn State, you see on the boards that they're all like they're excited because, they're getting a fresh start. I mean, they're really going to be starting from the bottom up again. I can't emphasize that enough. They're a hard start over. They're going to lose pretty much all the work that Franklin put into that program, and it's going to transfer to Virginia Tech. And just to keep adding to that, I mean, I'm looking here, it's not even just about the financial commitments and the salaries to the staff. They're talking about building new facilities. They're talking about NIL. It's like a $230 million commitment to NIL over the next 4 years. I mean, what he's walking into is about as soft a landing spot as you. I mean, I don't know how he can't succeed.
And I think people are already donating based on who was hired.
Oh, I'm sure.
I think the great thing about James Franklin, he said all the right things since he was let go from Penn State. So that week, I think he was going to like a team meeting on Sunday, and they called him in the hallway and they said, "You're getting let go." Was a shocker to a lot of people, even despite what happened, losing to UCLA, Oregon. Who was their third loss to? What was that game where he just looked lost?
UCLA, I think.
UCLA was right after Oregon, and then there was one more, right? Northwestern, maybe? I forget.
Pull it up right now. But yeah, keep going.
It was his third loss in a row, and I remember his daughter came up to him to consult him because he just had that look on his face. It was kind of like defeat, like what the hell is going on here type situation. And
yeah, Northwestern got him.
Yeah, so Northwestern beat
and Iowa
right after that. But Iowa's a very good team this year. But that whole week, like the first few days, he was kind of quiet. But then he went on College Game Day and had a very strong interview and just kind of talked about his side. And then for the past few weeks, I feel like his name has just been attached to Virginia Tech. He wanted to coach again, and I think he wanted to jump right into it. So here he is. He's in Virginia Tech. It's time to go. We're going to see what guys he can carry over, especially from that 2026 class that he had at Penn State. Maybe he can get a few of those guys. What he's going to do in the transfer portal, because we know how valuable the transfer portal is now. I'm curious, though. Like, is LeVar Arrington's son, LeVar Arrington II, he's going to stay in Penn State, right? He has to, right?
Yeah, I don't think. Legacy guys are tough. I can't imagine that he went to that school because his dad. Yeah. No, I don't envision that. That good point, but I don't think it's.
He's a beast.
I just can't imagine. I can't imagine that he's going to be looking to bounce. You know what's funny? I was watching the other day. I think I sent you a clip, or I sent both of you a clip months ago about an offensive lineman. The dude was built like a defensive end. He committed to Penn State. He was 4-star recruit.
Yeah.
And did you see he just decommitted and committed to West Virginia like that right after Franklin got?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. I mean, Penn State's they're in a tough spot. I mean, you could already look right now. So I don't know what I'm looking here at their 247, recruiting. That's what I tend to go by. I know some people use Max Preps and whatever else, the On3, whatever else you use. They went from having a top 25 recruiting class to number 80. I mean, Franklin getting rid of him, I think it was warranted, but Penn State fans that are celebrating, I don't know, guys. I'd pump the brakes. But I do want to make a point that when Rutgers beats Penn State to end the season, I'm still going to celebrate like they were the number one team.
Are you going to that game?
You know what? I think we should. I don't care if who Penn State has. I don't care how, if they're just trying to get the season over with. If Rutgers beats them, I'm celebrating like Rutgers beat the number one team in the country.
It's a showdown of the bad, but yeah,
Rutgers might be better.
Penn State's the favorite going into the Nebraska game this weekend. And Nebraska has like a stud freshman quarterback starting, so people are not putting respect on the Cornhuskers name. But another person who was a Penn State recruit, 4-star quarterback Troy Hun, I forgot about him, and he has a crystal ball to sign with or commit to Virginia Tech already. So exciting.
Yeah, it's an awkward one. Because they already have a 4-star recruit that's committed to Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
That's like an awkward, you know what I mean? Like I don't know. I mean, whoever he can get, right? Like, get as many quarterbacks in there as you can.
I don't think
they have the kid Cole Bergeron, who's a 4-star. He's ranked right above the kid you just mentioned. And, I don't know. Maybe he can get them both to come, right? I mean, he did it at Penn State, so.
Yeah, I don't imagine that he's going to start a freshman next year. Although he did start Allaire as a freshman, but he was also a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Also, let's not diminish Penn State either, because I think when all is said and done, they'll still have an impressive coach that they hire. It feels like kind of the Knicks situation, where everywhere Penn State looks, it's kind of getting shot down. And now they're like in a weird position where they actually have to start a full-blown coaching search at this point. And that's what happened with the New York Knicks when they fired Tibbs after the playoffs. So, but whoever's going to be their coach, it's going to be the James Franklin effect, where he's going to bring his recruits over, and I'm sure he'll have to hit the portal hard. It's just domino effect. But let's talk the playoff picture. Let's move on. So the playoff bracket was released this week. I don't imagine this is how it's going to stay, but right now Ohio State's the 1 seed with a bye, Indiana 2 with a bye, Texas A&M has a bye, and Georgia has a bye. And then you have the 8-9 game, which is Oklahoma versus Notre Dame, which would be awesome. The 5 versus 12 game, Texas Tech versus Tulane. Oregon versus Alabama in the 7 versus 10 game. And then Ole Miss, Miami, the 6 versus 11. When you see that bracket, what's the first thing you guys see? Or, like, what's the first thing that pops off the page to you?
That BYU and Utah both aren't getting in. And I hate that they're there. But no, you know what? Honestly, I think that right now, the way it's shaking down, it could be a very competitive playoff. Like, I look at that Alabama-Oregon matchup. I love that matchup. I'm going to be honest. I love it.
I mean, that's two of the top quarterbacks going right at each other.
And I would have probably told you before this week, after, last week, if that was the matchup I saw, I probably would have given Alabama the edge. Sorry, Kevin. I probably would have given them the edge. But, Simpson he looked, kind of average in that game. So I would have to give Oregon the edge in that matchup. But I think that game would be super exciting. I mean, I don't know anybody that wouldn't sign up to watch that. It's unfortunate it would happen early.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Looking at that game, that's probably the toughest, outside of maybe Oregon versus Alabama. But that's one of those two. It's a coin toss for the toughest first round game. Why do we keep falling into a situation where the 1 seed has to play like the winner of the toughest game every year? Did you notice that happened last year with Oregon when they had the 1 seed? It's happening again. Like if this was the playoff at the end of the season, if this the season ended tomorrow and this is what our playoff was, like Ohio State would have to face either Oklahoma, who has a great defense, and Mateer. Like, you don't know what you're gonna get out of Mateer. Maybe he shows up in the playoff and you get early season Mateer, but recently it hasn't been great. He's certainly not the reason they beat Alabama this past weekend. Or you get Notre Dame, who a lot of people are high on. They have Love at running back. Carr's been fantastic at quarterback. That's a high-power offense right there. And it's no slouch on defense either. I think Notre Dame has one of the best secondaries in the nation. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but I'm pretty sure. But one thing I want to talk about with that game, Brett Venables, how amazing of a job has he done this season? Oklahoma, a lot of people after what's he been there, 2 years now? A lot of people wanted to write him off. They were saying that he could never get them back to where Oklahoma was several years ago when they had Caleb Williams at quarterback. But this season, he's really used his mastermind on the defensive side, and they've really carried them through that SEC play. And they've been in every single game. There hasn't really been a blowout for Oklahoma. And now they're back in the playoff picture, and I think they have a very strong chance of getting in. I don't know who they close out the season with, but That defense is moving right now, and to go on the road to beat the Alabama Crimson Tide in Alabama and Tuscaloosa, that's not an easy task after what 4 or 5 top 25 teams failed previously, leading
With
up.
a one-handed quarterback, and it's his throwing hand that doesn't work.
Exactly. Like, there's no way Mateer is 100% right now, right?
He should be playing. He should not be playing right now. But actually, it's Venable's third year, and I just can't emphasize how, because I just, now I'm looking at it. Lincoln Riley left them and pretty much gutted the recruits all went different places. Some went to USC, some didn't. And that was their first year in SEC play. He had to rebuild the team, literally coming fresh into the SEC. So yeah, people wrote him off, and rightfully so. They should have. And I mean, he did it. He did it. Now, has he won a big game yet? No, but if he can get some semblance of a healthy Mateer in the playoff, he could be dangerous. Tell you that.
I mean, you can argue that yes, he has won at least one game because he just beat Alabama.
He did. That's true. But it's going to come down to the playoff. Well, I think it's going to come down to the playoff and what you do there. But yeah, I mean, he definitely has a big. I mean, that was a statement game, right? Like, Alabama was a statement game for him. No doubt about it. That's something you hang on a resume.
Yeah, that's a resume builder for sure.
So I mean, as it stands now, I mean, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, that's such a tough game to pick too. If that's how, I don't think it'll stay this way, but
No.
I can't count Oklahoma out. I can't, I want to pick Oklahoma, but I can't count Notre Dame out. I think Connor Carr, I think Carr is a stud at quarter. I think he's a future first overall pick. I think that he is a gamer, and I think that he could beat anybody in the playoffs if he plays well. But it'd be so hard. Oklahoma, I think their defense would turn it up on them so bad. So I would have to pick Oklahoma in that game. Even with a hurt Mateer, that defense is sick.
It is.
Look what they just did to Simpson. And we were talking about Simpson, how, you got Todd McShay saying Ty Simpson's the best quarterback he's seen in a long time. And they made him look, I don't want to say he looked terrible, because he didn't, but they hurt him when they needed him most. You know what I mean? Like, they got him turning the ball over, which really nobody else has done this year. That defense could be a massive problem.
Yeah, definitely. And I think they were missing, I'm trying to look up his name. R. Mason Thomas, who's been like one of their best defensive linemen. I think he has, 6.5 sacks this year?
Yeah.
Could be wrong with that number. But he was out last week against Alabama. I believe he's going to be out again this week. But that's been all season. I feel like every time I look at the injury list for Oklahoma, somebody that's significant for that team is out, and they're still finding ways to survive. I have some scenarios for you guys. I just thought of this one, actually. And I'm going to kick this over to you, Kev, because this is your team. So Oregon, USC this weekend, and we'll talk more about predictions later. But if Oregon loses this game, they have to be out of the playoff, right? And leave the fan bias on the side. Because I know it's very easy to be like, hey, like, I'm getting my team in. But, like, Penn State is no longer a significant win with how their season unfolded. So right now, Oregon's biggest win this season is Iowa. So do you have a case for Oregon getting into the playoff if they lose to USC this weekend?
I mean, it would be tough. I mean, their only loss right now is obviously to the 2 seed right now, so it's not looking bad. But yeah, losing to USC with a 2-loss. I mean, there's a lot of 2-loss teams currently in the playoffs that I feel like shouldn't even be in the playoff run.
Specifically Utah, for chance?
Exactly.
By chance, are you referencing Utah?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not sure.
But, I mean, I know some teams will get automatic bids, but, I mean, there are some teams that you're looking at and you're just like, well, why are they even here? But, I mean, I really hope they win, but it'll be tough if they do lose, and I don't see them making the playoffs, really.
I was about to say, so let me ask it to you, head-to-head, let's just say Oregon does lose to USC. Is there any situation in which you could put Oregon in over USC?
No. Absolutely not. The head-to-head alone.
That would be a huge win for USC. It actually would be their biggest win this year. It'd be, it would almost, and that's what hurts them. Just to add to that, is because USC wouldn't have to play a conference championship game.
Yeah. But going off that too, if they're the head-to-heads and everything, I feel like the college football playoff isn't totally looking on that, because if they have two 8-2 teams that played each other, and they have Notre Dame over Miami right now, and Miami beat Notre Dame in the beginning of the year.
No, that's
yeah. I mean, Yeah, last week we talked about that, and the last episode was Notre Dame is hanging on. But if you were going to remove a team outside of Utah, Notre Dame is that team. I think that still stands today, Steve. You agree?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think you put Notre Dame in because of the potential, the name, and all that good stuff. But that's the reason the college football committee did it as well. But I can see why like some people believe that we're falling into like dangerous waters when we put Notre Dame in after what week does the college football bracket come out? I don't.
What was it, 3 weeks ago?
10,
Yes.
I think 10 or 11.
Okay,
I got it right here.
so Notre Dame loses their first two games, and yes, it's to Texas A&M and Miami.
Week 10.
They both happen to be in the playoff right now, so they're two tough losses. And Notre Dame probably should have won that Texas A&M game because the way they went down in the final seconds, that was just brutal. And they're becoming the better team as they progress through the season. And I think the college football committee likes to see that. They like to see teams that start to improve as the season goes on and grow. But I don't know if you fully factored into play when you're like, hey, here's this attractive jewel here in Notre Dame, this team that was in the championship game last season, and probably has a better roster even this season. Like, we're just going to jump them into the top 12 and put them into the playoff after week 10. You don't think about teams like Miami who head to head beat them, and I know that was 3 months ago, but still, if you're going in terms of like what the college football committee says they look for every season, when all else fails, when you throw to the side strength of schedule, and when you throw to the side, that growth that I was talking about, they want to see what the head-to-head matchup was if it's there. And the fact that Notre Dame's at 9 and Miami's at 11, it does become a dangerous topic for the college football committee, because at the end of the season, when they sit down and say Miami wins out the rest of the season and Notre Dame wins out the rest of the season, there's no scenario in the world where Miami should be at 11 and Notre Dame should be at 9 at the end of the season. It should be swapped. And in fact, I think they will swap them if it gets to that point. And it's like, why were we putting out this fake bracket every single week to just swap it at the end? It doesn't make sense to me.
Nope.
No, there's a lot that it's left to be desired. But I want to ask a different question here, because I think we could all find a team, specifically Steve, outside of the college, the initial 12 teams right now, that they would love to find a way to get them in. In this scenario, removing conference championship games, what's the one team outside of the current ranked outside the college football playoff right now that you guys would like to see in the CFP? I think I've made mine pretty clear who I wanted. I would love Georgia Tech to get in there because I think that it would be, they could beat anybody, and I think it's exciting. And I still do in my heart believe they're going to make it in. I think that, even a close game to Georgia, I think they can beat Georgia, actually. I mean, they 9 overtimes last year. I mean, I think they can get it done. Georgia Tech would be the team for me that I would love to see get in the playoff over, a Miami, which technically they still have a shot at the ACC championship game, and or Notre Dame. What is that team for you guys, Kev? You can lead with that.
I mean, looking at this list, really,
because I know what Steve's going to say. So
yeah, I think I know who Steve's going to say as well. But I think, yeah, like you said, Georgia Tech is really the main one that's deserving. They're 9-1. They play hard for that head coach. They don't play the sexiest football, if you want to say, because they run the ball down your throat and they don't care.
It's just old school football.
Exactly. It's not the air raid system that everyone's used to anymore. So, I mean,
yeah.
And it's Haynes King is literally, I think you could line him up at middle linebacker and he'd play just fine.
Probably would. Yeah. That quarterback, he's a tough one.
So I got news for you,
fantastic.
Guys. I got news for you. I hate to crush your hopes, but Georgia Tech in 2 weeks are going to lose. They're going to lose to Georgia. Georgia right now is playing some of the best football in the country. I don't see them losing until they face a team like Ohio State or somebody along those lines. The second part with Georgia Tech for me is, outside of Haynes King, it's not that attractive. They just struggled against a Boston College team that has one loss this season, and there's been a lot of close games in the ACC play. They've been playing with fire the entire season, and you knew that loss was going to happen eventually. And that loss against NC State, which is just like, if you want to be a playoff team, especially in the ACC, you can't really lose to NC State. Unfortunately, a team like Miami, who has 2 losses, they have a little more breathing room because they had a tougher non-schedule or non-conference schedule where they did beat Notre Dame, and Notre Dame's in the playoff right now. Georgia Tech was really banking earlier in the season that Clemson win was going to look a lot better, and it's kind of like Oregon, where like Oregon was banking on Penn State to be a little bit of a shinier win for them, but it didn't work out that way. I know you guys think I'm going to say Michigan, and
I'm actually disappointed if you don't say Michigan. Just to be clear,
Michigan is not going to be my response just because you guys expected, and it's too much of my fandom response. I will say this. For Michigan, it's the expectations this season, and I know the schedule hasn't been the hardest this year, but they actually have the youngest team in the Big Ten. And let's not forget, I think, they went 7-5 last season. And the fact that Sherwin Moore has them at 8-2 this season, and I know once again close games, and people want to knock Bryce Underwood for the 3 turnovers last week against Northwestern, but leading up to the 2 interceptions he threw in the fourth quarter, it was actually one of his better games this season. So to me, that's growth. And anytime you have Jordan Marshall at running back, anything can happen. So I know Ohio State's opening up as a 12.5 favorite in the game this year. But Michigan's the home team. The weather, I've been seeing the weather out there. It's supposed to snow again, like the first time Michigan beat them several times or several years ago. Who knows? If they run the ball and control the clock, you just don't know what's going to happen. And who knows if Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith are back. I think Jeremiah Smith will be back, but Carnell Tate, there's some rumors, man. Half Achilles, like I don't know what's going on with that man, but
just sitting out like JSN to preserve his stock.
Could be that too.
It's a little fishy.
But for the sake of I think they have a pretty direct path in, and I think they are going to get in. I think Vanderbilt is the team that I want to see in the playoff. Imagine Diego Pavia in the college football playoff.
Oh my God! Give him a national television so he could call out Tate McRae asking her for a date. I'm in.
Yeah, you can't run back. And come on, they're playing Kentucky this weekend. They should win that game. And then there's the rival game, the in-state rival game against Tennessee. But I'm giving the edge to Vanderbilt in that game. And they don't have to worry about the SEC championship game. So
I'm saying. It's kind of like we're talking about these matchups. They're super realistic that this stuff could happen. It negates the whole, conference championship game. Like at this point, it almost feels like, why have one? Like I said, I mean, for USC specifically, like going back to that, not to change the subject, if they beat Oregon, they are sitting pretty. Like there's like, you know what I mean? Like there's no implication, so to speak. It's like they're going to be able to coast in, and should they be able to? Should they not be able to? It just, we've completely eliminated conference championship games. You're at a disadvantage if you play in one. That's what it's come down to.
I think the only team in the country that wants to play a conference championship game right now is Ohio State, because they haven't been to Indianapolis in God knows how many years, because they keep losing the game to Michigan. And I know Ryan Day's made it a point where he's said no one on his roster's been to the Big Ten championship game. So they want to add that to their resume, because they feel like last season, although they just totally crushed every single opponent in the college football playoff, they feel like some people have room to say it wasn't the perfect season because they lost to Michigan and they didn't play in the Big Ten championship game. So you can I guess you can discredit it a little bit, but I don't know. I never looked at their championship run and I never said that was a bad Ohio or that was a bad national champ. Actually,
I don't believe in a bad national champ. They won a national championship.
But like in recent memory, that was one of the more dominant teams I've seen. Actually, I think
they got hot at the right time.
They got hot. They got hot at the right time, and I think Day was very conservative with his play calling against Michigan. I think he went into that game because Michigan's been so physical against Ohio State over the past few years, and he said we need to control the line of scrimmage. We need to control the clock, and we're going to run the ball. Why would you do that when your bread and butter the entire season's been passing, and you have a freak freshman in Jeremiah Smith? And they had Ibuka last year, and they had Carnell Tate, and God, they had the two-headed attack at running back, and I think,
it was a very good team.
Henderson can catch the ball out of the backfield. That was a very good team. But you're right. The conference championship game, like Alabama's even sitting there. And this was something that's been driving me mad this entire week is like if Alabama beats Auburn, I think they're a lock to go to the SEC championship game. But Alabama's like, no, like we don't want it. We don't want it. Like, don't give it to us, because if they go to the SEC championship game, they end up playing Texas A&M. And Texas A&M's a whole nother story because I honestly think Alabama probably beats Texas A&M in the SEC championship game. But if they do lose, then there's a conversation that like there's a bunch of 2-loss teams, including Vanderbilt we just talked about, including Georgia Tech. If they lose to Georgia,
That could leapfrog them.
that could.
100%.
Why would you make a case for a 3-loss team to get in outside of they earn the right to go to the SEC championship game and they probably have beat the most impressive teams this season.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm looking here right now, and like, it's a good question to ask because I think it's pretty. I think Ohio State and Indiana are probably our Big Ten championship game. They're both 1 and 2. How far does the loser fall in the ranking? How far can you lower them? Can you even discredit them from where they are for 1 loss?
Well, think about
like I'm looking at this and it's like
Alabama dropped 7 spots for a loss. So if any of like the next team who loses, like they might drop out. Like take for Oregon this weekend. If they lose, they're probably dropping to like the 15 seed or something.
Yeah, pretty much swap.
Yeah, but I mean, but again, same thing, right? So if Oregon beats USC, it's still coasting to they're still coasting to the playoff because they're not going to be playing. I'm going to say that if Ohio State and Indiana play in the conference championship game, I don't think either one of whoever loses doesn't fall very far. I just don't see it. I know that
kind of happened last year in the playoff when
Penn
played. Penn State. I think Penn State dropped to like what 5 or 6. Like
was it that? Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's almost like why, like, it doesn't benefit you to play in it. Like, Steve was right. Ohio State probably wants to play in it to prove a point. But at the end of the day, do they benefit from it? Not really.
It's the same thing with, like, Michigan. If Michigan beats Ohio State, I think they're in the Big Ten championship game. And then they have to play.
But does that benefit? I'd argue that hurts Michigan.
At all. Because then they have to face Mendoza and Indiana. I'm going to tell you, like, I don't think they're beating Ohio State and Indiana back-to-back weeks. That's the 1 and 2 seed. So, like, how does that help?
But if they did, we'd have one hell of a conversation.
That's a big conversation there.
The other thing that, for me, like, Tulane, so in the AP poll, they're number 24. They have 2 losses. I'm just, like, over this, like, we need to get a mid-major in. I only want to get a mid-major in when it makes sense.
They earn it.
Give me Boise State undefeated, 1 loss with Genty running all over defenses all season. Give me that mid-major because maybe they enter the game and they make it competitive. But when you have Tulane go to Texas Tech and they're probably going to be 3 or 4 touchdown underdogs, and honestly, it's just probably going to hold true. Like, I don't see Tulane competing in that game. It's not entertaining because I look at the rest of the schedule. Like, I would love to watch Oklahoma and Notre Dame. I would love to watch Oregon versus Alabama. I would love to watch Ole Miss versus Miami. I do not want to watch Texas Tech versus Tulane. And that's no discredit to Tulane, but they just don't have the resources. They don't have the talent. And honestly, they don't have the resume. And like, why are we going to knock the rest of these guys? The Miamis of the world, the Notre Dames of the world. If Alabama loses again, why are we going to hold it over their head if we're going to accept a Tulane team that's lost 2 games this season? So I think there needs to be some major change to that. Like, you need to hit some, like resume marks in order to be a mid-major and still make it.
I'd rather Tulane over Utah.
What's with the hate on Utah? Wow.
They're just a bore. I find Big 12 football to be so boring. I don't know what it is, man. I have no interest. I'd rather watch Tulane get dogged by 7 scores and watch a Big 12 football game. Just being completely honest.
Is it the Mormons?
It's not fun.
Are you against the Mormons?
Am I against the Mormons? Do we have any Mormon listeners?
I don't know.
We like Scientologists better.
I mean, one of the best games in the college football playoff last year was a Big 12 school of ASU. So, I mean, there are some times where it is exceptional.
Yeah, but I mean, if you looked at conferences, like every conference plays relatively different sort of football, like a different brand. And like the Big 12, they just don't play defense. Like it's not even fun to watch. It's just wide open passing. They're running a lot of spread. Like it's not exciting to me. It's just not. I'd rather watch Big 10, SEC, ACC football over any Big 12 game. It's like there's a lack of defense. And then God forbid you get a game like who was it, Kansas State and whoever played in Dublin earlier this year. It was painful to watch. Physically.
Iowa State.
Yeah, I remember texting during that game, and I wanted to take a spoon and claw my eyes out. It was so boring. And I'm sorry if you happen to put this out on TikTok, and somebody from Utah hates me because of my hate for Utah. I'm not even sorry. I've got nothing to apologize for. Your school sucks.
Maybe not the
But
football team.
also going back to your point, Steve, like for all those like lower tier conferences, if they want to like start putting them in the playoffs, maybe schedule them their non-conference games against the schools that like or even like just like the lower tier ACC schools or any of the bigger conferences, just
Yeah.
so that like you can gauge their talent level. And
Well, I think that's also part of it, right? Like, I don't know what Tulane's schedule looked like, but I'd be willing to bet you that their non-conference games are weak. I could look it up right now to get that exact fact. But like, for instance, like Boise State, they schedule good schools.
They do.
ASU scheduled good schools. Like, I listen. I could be very wrong, and I'm going to look it up right now. But like, who is Tulane playing out of conference at their non-conference? Okay, so here I see it right here. They got dogged by Ole Miss. I'm looking here.
I mean,
they
yeah,
lost.
Ole Miss is a
They
big-
lost to Oklahoma and Ole Miss right now. Oklahoma was 40-35, but the Ole Miss was
Ole Miss
60-20.
slaughtered them. Yeah, I mean,
Okay, that's why they're in there. They lost to Oklahoma, and
Yeah, I mean that's two of the top schools, but I mean still.
yeah, but if you look at the rest of their schedule, who's like go through their schedule, they don't have their best win. I'll tell you right now is who Duke,
beat Army.
Northwestern, maybe. Like, are you willing to like? I don't know. Like, I'm not willing to say that this team is a pretty good team based off a Northwestern or a Duke win. Like, I'm just not.
Barely
Yeah.
escaping. Yeah, they're barely getting by. Here's the thing, though. If I'm in the Big 12, or even like say I'm Ohio State this season, and look at Ohio State's schedule this entire year. A lot of people are saying, I think even Dan Orlovsky a few weeks ago, he's like, "Oh, Ohio State hasn't been challenged yet," outside of the Texas game week 1. But if I'm going to be truthful with you, even if you take away that Texas game and they just scheduled a Miami of Ohio game week 1 or something, or some other school they know they're going to beat by like 40 plus points, we're still probably putting Ohio State at number 1 in this bracket, because we're going to say they have the best defense, they have the best offense on paper, and
they play in one of the best, arguably the first or second best second best conference in football. I mean, they've manhandled most of the teams they've played.
But like Michigan's going to be the first ranked team they face since Texas this entire.
Hey, listen, they got a tough matchup this week, right? I'm not going to allow you to sell me short.
And actually, I was wrong on the Tulane that that was a while ago that they played Oklahoma, maybe last year. But their second loss was to UTSA.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, listen, Ohio State's going to be
like 40 itself.
Just to be clear, Ohio State's going to be tested in ways they've never been tested this weekend. All right.
I think you could take out Julian Sayin, Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, take out the entire defense, play the second defense. I think they're still beating Rutgers by at least 20.
That's an improvement. Okay, I can live with that. I want to see what this just because because obviously I am the one that roots for the crappiest team in, out of our fandoms, maybe the Big Ten. We're only 31.5 underdogs. So, you know what?
Isn't that less than it was? I mean, it was against Oregon. I think Oregon was pretty high.
Yeah, a lot of it probably has to do with the fact that nobody knows if Smith or Tate are playing. But like I said, we were talking earlier this week, me and Steve, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Because what's going to happen is Ohio State's going to put somebody out there we've never heard of, and we're going to be talking about them like we did every other receiver at Ohio State. So it doesn't matter. But
Order
that
homecoming.
It's but yeah, no, I agree that Ohio State's toughest matchup this season will inevitably end up being the Michigan game. And as much as I like to dog on Michigan, it doesn't matter. Like that, we could throw records out when that game happens. I think we probably should live stream that game and do the do this while that game's going on, because I think it'll be that good. Yeah, I think that's probably their biggest. It's not even an argument. It is their biggest test this year when you look at it. But yeah, I think that. I don't know. We're going to find out how good they are. If they end up blowing the doors off Michigan, I don't think there's anybody that's touching them.
No, but it's just to my point. Like, you can have that type of schedule and still get into the college football playoff. Because if you go undefeated with that type of cupcake schedule, then they're still going to be like, all right, you're Ohio State, you're in. So I honestly, like, I don't know what this college football committee wants anymore. It's like, is it that strength of schedule? Is it, I think the biggest predictor is if you do the head-to-head. So, Kev, in some ways, you're right. Like you should book those non-conference games, but I think a lot of coaches are starting to get away from it because they're like, hey, if I just breeze through my
If I coached,
non-conference,
yeah.
I'll be in a good position. But yeah, did we still want to do the coaches this week, or we're just going to go into quarterbacks?
I think we roll right into quarterbacks. I think we save that. We'll do we'll start, coach rankings and do, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
That'll be coming soon.
Okay. So last week, Mike and I did the wide receiver draft. Not so much rankings, but I guess just previews in some ways, profiles. This week we're going to do quarterbacks, and we're going to talk about who we think will be in the draft, I guess, and some guys who should stay in school. And I don't know who wants to kick this off, but if you're high, one.
So I will. I could do this. I'm going to throw some names out there. Let's start with should they come out or should they not come out. I think that's fair. And then from there, we will rank what we got and we could see what we think. So I'm going to start with Mendoza. I think is a no-brainer. Should come out this year. I don't think that he's going to gain anything by going back to school for another year unless he truly wants to chase a championship and he coincidentally doesn't win one this year. However, I don't think that if he goes back next year that he's going to end up in a better spot. He could, still end up getting drafted the same spot. I just think this is his year to come out with less competition.
I agree.
I agree with that too.
The game that he had against Wisconsin was kind of a saving grace for him because not a saving grace, but I mean, Wisconsin, I think their defense has been pretty good this season. It's just that offenses just can't even put points up against any of those mid-major teams we just talked about probably and then some. But yeah, I really what really bothered me was 2 weeks ago with Mendoza where he found a way to beat Penn State. And when you play in the Big Ten, every week's a battle. Any team can show up. I would say most teams have pretty respectable coaches in the Big Ten. So even if the talent is not on par with each other, they can still find a way to strike up a game plan and keep their team in it. And it was driving me nuts, the comments that were coming out of the Penn State game where people were trying to say Mendoza struggled all the way up until that final drive. Yeah, it shouldn't have been 27-24 against the Penn State team that doesn't have their starting quarterback anymore and fired their coach, and it's just been a mess of a season. But there's still a whole lot of talent on that Penn State team. They still have a top 40 defense in the nation. They still have guys that are probably going to get drafted by the NFL on that defense. And they still have a two-headed attack at running back that at any point in the game can, pop off. There's still a lot to be happy about for Penn State outside of that they're not going to be in the playoff and they're looking for a coach. Mendoza, I didn't watch this game, and I remember, Mike, you were texting me as it was happening, and you're like, oh.
I want Kevin to tell this pod what he texted me right before that drive.
Yeah, I mean, coming from a Jets fan, because I was like, I don't want him. He was looking, I mean, I only saw some of it. I didn't see all of it, but I remember seeing the one interception he threw, and it was bad. So I was just like, I don't want him.
And then Mendoza goes down, drives.
I was like, all right, I don't mind it. I don't mind.
Yeah, it drives 80 yards in 4 pass plays, and then hits the back of the end zone, which I will admit, not the greatest throw. The receiver did a lot there, but he put it where only his receiver could get it. Even if that what down was that on? I'd have to look it back. But either way, he put it only where
it was second or third, I think. It wasn't.
Yeah, even if he threw that out of the back of the end zone, it wasn't. He was still going to get another chance at it. But my important thing is, and this is because Kevin is also as big a Jets fan as I am, is I want a quarterback that finds out. You could throw 2-3 interceptions, but if you find a way to win, that's a quality, right? Like that's a trait. I want that. So yeah. But Kevin soured on Mendoza, and then 38 seconds later was back and said, "Okay."
I mean, that one throw, it was like the throw after he had like that big gain downfield and the sideline throw. That was probably one of the better throws from anyone this season. The only other person that I've seen throw a good ball is probably the next quarterback we're talking about is Ty Simpson.
Yeah. So we'll do the breakdown. So let's move on from this. So yeah, Mendoza is an out. We think he needs to come out this
his
year.
Brother sitting behind him, so He won't go back.
So that's also, I think that plays a huge part in it as well. So next quarterback's Ty Simpson. Staying or going? This is a tough one for me. I'm going to be completely honest with you. This is a tough one because he's a one-year starter. He is having a great year. You know, I go back and forth on this a lot with myself. He has a lot of NFL traits that I think are elite franchise quarterback traits. But then like this last game, the first interception he threw was like, you know, what am I watching here? Like, you know, it wasn't he got jumped on a route that he shouldn't have even took a chance on. And he kind of just looked lost. And this, you know, that game against Oklahoma is that's a huge game this season. I'm going to say that he should come out still though, because I think that the traits are there. I think that he has major franchise quarterback traits, even more so than Mendoza. I would not put him above Mendoza, but I think he's got, if you told me he came out this year and in 4 years, Ty Simpson's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, I probably wouldn't be shocked. So yeah, it's a tough one for me, but I'm going to say yes, he should come out because he's going to get lost in the quarterbacks if he goes back next year.
Yeah, that's the number one point is if he waits till next year, there's a good chance he's going to be a lower pick. But I want to point out something else. Ty Simpson turns 23 in December. If he comes back another year, he's going to be 24 years old when he goes into the NFL draft. And when we think about quarterbacks, we gave the Saints a lot of – I don't think too many people outside of like the Saints organization love the Tyler Shugg pick just because – what is he, like 25 years old or something?
Yeah, he'll be 26, I think, this offseason. Yeah.
So he's starting his NFL clock a little later. And it would be the same thing for Simpson. He's going to be a 24-year-old. Who knows if he starts his first season? Now you're looking at, you know, if he sits the bench a season or two, you're looking at a 25, 26-year-old. And quarterbacks can go till 40. They certainly can, but it's just prolonging what, you know, is that NFL clock. I just think the same thing as Mendoza. I'm not going to put one game on Simpson. And that's a tough Oklahoma defense. Yeah, he didn't make some throws this game, but this season you can't deny 22 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. For the most part, he's been careful with the ball. He's the reason that Alabama had any hope this season. There is a lot of talent on that team. That defense flies around. You know, you have Ryan Williams and Bernard, right? Is the other receiver on the offensive side. But if you didn't have Ty Simpson come in and have this type of season, like I don't think Alabama's in the playoff picture this year. Is we saw what they were with Jalen Milroe last season, and I don't think this roster is too far off from what they had last season. So I don't know. Like if you told me that, like if I'm Ty Simpson and you told me, all right, Mendoza's probably the lock to be number 1, but you're going to be the number 2 quarterback off the board, I'm doing it. You know, like I may love Alabama, I may love college football, and I may want to come back and, you know, try for another national championship. And I know I can make a few mil being on Alabama, but the time is now. It's like, you don't know who's entering after that. Like Julian Sayin might enter, Arch Manning may enter. Who else is going to be available? Like,
yeah, I mean, potentially you could have, who's the next quarterback we're going to talk about? You could have Dante Moore. You might have Jaden Mayava, John Mateer. I mean, the list is endless of guys that could go back. And my biggest thing is, if just to add to that point, and because I think this will lead into Kevin pretty good, is if Ty Simpson goes back and he has another year like this year, which is a great year, are you taking him over a guy? And I'm going to remove Arch Manning because, you know, I don't think he is what he was. But if I stacked Ty Simpson, what he did this year, whatever it ends up being, against Dante Moore and Julian Sayin next year, are you taking him over those two guys? Probably not. Regardless of what he does, I don't think you're finding a way to take him over Moore or Sayin if they choose to go back. And with that, I'll lead Kevin into the Ty Simpson because I think it's a good point.
Kind of going with what Steve said. I mean, everyone in the NFL is looking for the next young thing. I mean, he's going to be, 2 to 3 years older than
Dante Moore, I think it would almost be 4 years over Sayin. And then Moore, I think, is he even 21 yet?
Yeah, I think he's 21. I think he's going to be 22 in the offseason. But
yeah, I'm looking here now.
You're kind of...
No, he's not even 21 yet.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I mean, you're still kind of going that, like Steve said, that NFL top clock. And if you're pretty much guaranteed being the second quarterback taken off the board. Even if you're the third, I mean, you might even, if Dante does come out this year as well.
You know what? I think that's a good point. But I think if he was going to have an argument to go over Dante Moore, it's this year.
Yeah,
it's this year. Next year, I don't, you always plan for growth, right? Like you always expect a quarterback to take the next step. I don't think that I think Dante Moore's next step is going to be greater than a Ty Simpson next step. And that's not a shot at Ty Simpson. I personally, if you told me I would have him on the Jets if he came out, I would sign up for it. No questions asked. But I think that next step that Dante Moore could take is much greater than that next step that Ty Simpson could take if he goes back. And to go a step further, the next step that Sane could take, God knows what that step is. I just think that a lot of quarterbacks, we can look back in time. Matt Leinart returning to school, huge mistake. I'm drawing blanks here, but there's a lot of guys that go back to school and they just, Cade Klubnik this year, Drew Aller this year, Garrett Nussmeier this year. These are all guys that potentially would have been first round picks last year and they all decided to go back. I think that Ty Simpson, you get while it's hot, right? Get it while it's hot. And I think this year, Ty Simpson, while I do think he could go back to school, take another step, his next step is not going to be greater than a Moore or, really anybody. It's going to be a good step, but he'll end up being the third or fourth guy off the board next year, which could, in theory, I'm thinking in my head now, might not be the worst thing. You end up in a better situation, but, you want to be the guy. And I think this year he could be the guy. So, no, you're good.
Let's also look at what the scenario is in the NFL, the landscape of the NFL. I feel like, honestly, like the players entering have the upper hand over these NFL organizations at the moment. It's kind of like you need me, I don't need you at this moment.
Oh, 100%.
Because, like, if I'm looking at a mock draft, the Browns need a quarterback. I don't care that they drafted Dylan Gabriel and Shadur Sanders.
I don't think it matters at all. Yeah.
I think they will look at a quarterback. Same thing with the Saints. I don't think they want to roll with Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shugg for a long term. Jets need a quarterback. Raiders would love a quarterback. Bengals, no, not the Bengals. They got Burrow. Cardinals would love a quarterback.
That's until the Jets give up 5 first-round picks and I'm just kidding.
Cardinals, Dolphins want a quarterback probably. That's probably it at the moment, but I mean, that's 5 or 6 teams that are going to be hunting for a quarterback. And what is there going to be, like 3? We're lucky if there's 3 solid first-round options next year.
I mean, realistically, right now, technically everybody can go back. We might be looking at a situation there is no quarterback. There's going to be quarterbacks there, but there's a situation in which Mendoza goes back to school, Simpson goes back to school, Moore goes back to school, and you're looking at Garrett Nussmeier and Cade Klubnik.
John Mateer possibly too.
John Mateer and Carson. John Mateer is definitely going back. Carson Beck and Drew Aller are your guys. None of them are going to be. It would be another year where no quarterbacks go in the first round. As we said, I think guys are going to realize, like, this is my chance. Like, for instance, I'll use Mendoza as a prime example. If he goes back to school, he is going to suffer more than anybody because next year he's going to fall behind everybody. So he could potentially be the first quarterback next year. Let's say all of them go back. You're looking at Mendoza as a 4th, 5th, 6th guy. Yeah. You know what I mean? So there will be guys there, but there is a situation in which none of them are there. Anyway, so Ty Simpson, I think we all agree should come out.
Who could be this year's Jackson Dart where they shoot up the board?
That's a really good question. That is a really good question. Who could be that this year's? I mean, to be honest with you, the only one that I could think of, and it's not really a good, would be Mateer, but I don't see a situation in which he's coming out, like, at all. Like, I don't think any of us see a situation where he comes out, but, I think Mateer would kind of be that guy that, SEC play, rugged, we would have liked to see more. Yeah. He's really the only one that makes sense for me because Moore's not that because Moore, I think, is a better prospect than Dart was coming out. Yeah. I don't know. I'm interested to see what you say. I would say Mateer.
You can't see like anyone like not Aller. I can never say his name right.
Yeah.
He might not even get drafted at this point, but you can't see like a Klubnik or Nussmeier being like that type of guy.
No. So like Dart he was coming off of a good season. Like he had a good season. And I mean, he was a projected 2nd round pick at worst. It's really tough. And I love Cade Klubnik. It's really tough to see somebody take a chance on a quarterback. Like it would be like a Jay Cutler situation. Like, you're taking a chance, a true chance. I don't think that's what it was with Dart. I think Dart was a guy that people liked. No, I'm going to be honest. I don't see Nussmeier or Klubnik making that kind of climb. I'll just put it there. They're not coming off a strong season. They're going to be coming off very poor seasons. Yeah, no, I don't see those guys. I get where you're going with it. I don't see those guys being that kind of player. Maybe Beck, but I don't think anybody loves. I mean, he's a winner, right? I mean, but I don't see him being a guy that rises late in the way that Dart did. But Dart, did he really rise that much? I mean, I feel like he kind of went where he should have, to be honest with you.
Yeah, like some people started talking like he was going to be a top 10 pick or something, and then he lasted till the end of the first round.
Yeah, I mean, I always felt he was an early second, late first guy. Like I thought he was there. Like I know people said the Giants reached at that pick. I don't think they did at all.
I agree. And then plus, if you're gonna take him the second anyway, trading up to get that extra year of his contract.
Yeah, that's the big thing too. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Well, I mean, who do you? So, Steve, would you say who do you feel? Do you feel a Klubnik or Nussmeier could be that guy?
Klubnik. I definitely listen. I like Nussmeier. I know like he's been very frustrating to watch in college, but as a pocket passer, I don't know if there's too many guys in college football that are as good as Nussmeier is. He just needs to cut back on the bonehead decisions, and he lets the game get bigger than he is or bigger than himself. But if you put him in a program where somebody's willing to take their time and develop this kid, I think that Nussmeier could become a starter in the NFL. And the same thing with Klubnik. That's why I think Klubnik could be another Jackson Dart type. I really think that this Clemson situation was so tense this year that it wasn't fair to Klubnik. Dabo Swinney's fighting for his job, I feel, almost this entire season, and
Definitely is.
and it hasn't been pretty. I don't think the play calling's been up to par to what we've seen from Dabo Swinney, and this team just doesn't seem prepared week in and week out. And if you look at Klubnik's like numbers after like the LSU game and then that awful game against Troy and the Georgia Tech game, he's actually turned it on of late. Like he's been a little better as the season's gone on. So he's put the adversity behind him. I think he's the type of kid that like even though his team's been out of it for several weeks now, he still shows up every single week and puts his best foot forward. And I think NFL teams are going to look at that and just be like, all right, here's a kid who, even when he was down, continued to punch up. So I really think Klubnik could be a guy. Another person, like, I'm curious to see just because, like, I'm looking through the list. So, like, Ty Simpson, Dante Moore from Mendoza, Sellers, Nussmeier, Mayava, Mateer, Klubnik, Levitt, Javia is on this list. But Brendan Sorsby, like, where do we think he's going to land? Because he's been pretty damn good on Cincinnati this season. He's not a trap.
I don't see. Yeah, I don't see it. Listen, I don't see it. I'll leave it at that. I don't think that he's going to rise above these guys. Because then the same argument could be made for, I'm going to say his name wrong and I'm going to end up getting hate for it, but Joey Fagnano from UConn. I mean, he's technically the number one quarterback in the country, but like, would you take him at 25 years? I don't know. But yeah, no, I mean, Brendan Sorsby could be a guy late, but I just think that you'll see, I'm going to be honest with you, you'll see Nussmeier, Klubnik, pretty much we'll go down the list a little more, but pretty much all these guys will go well before he does.
There's 4 guys. If I have a first round pick, there's 4 guys I'd be okay with taking. Outside of that, if they're not there anymore, I might wait for the next year's draft. It's Mendoza, it's Ty Simpson, it's Sellers, and it's Dante Moore. If those,
you would still take Sellers in the first round.
I would, just because of his potential. So you have a guy that has a strong arm, but can also take off. So once again, like, what has his development been in South Carolina? Are we really, based off of one good South Carolina season, we're going to put Beamer as this, like, top tier head coach in college football? Heck, I think people are calling for his job now, so it's not a good situation when you're sitting here and you're saying this kid should transfer elsewhere if he wants to become a better football player. So, like, what is Sellers' options going to be? It's going to be either I go to a school like Miami next season, or I go to...
Which I think is, he was on our list to go through. He should go and transfer.
Yeah.
I don't think he should come out.
I'm with you. I really think he should go back to school and transfer out.
I would not invest a first round pick in him at this point. I would get very much Anthony Richardson fears. And the difference is Anthony Richardson statistically had a good year at Florida that last year. It wasn't awful. He is not, like, there's nothing, you'd be hoping that he turns into like a Dan Marino, where Dan Marino had a really bad senior season that cost him, and he still came in and was, he became a Hall of Fame quarterback. Sellers reminds me too much of Anthony Richardson if I'm a team that's got to put my job on the line and invest a first round pick, it's not him. And I love Sellers. Kevin, you loved Sellers coming into this year. I think we all did. We all loved him.
Well, let me
I can't.
Did Richardson have the same type of like hype going into college that Sellers has?
No, not even close. No, I
think people look at him and they just say like, this is a freak at quarterback.
Well,
maybe he did have
like, Well, Anthony Richardson, he didn't start. When did he start? He started as a sophomore or as a freshman? I've got to remember it. I've blocked out a lot of Anthony
I think
Richardson
he
stuff in my
lived
own.
his second season. But let's put it this way. I know Sellers hasn't been perfect this season, but you remember we were having the Cam Ward discussion the other day, and you're like, it's not fair to say, Cam Ward hasn't been a good quarterback this season because of his offensive line and the players around him. And I know Sellers has a very good wide receiver target, but his offensive line.
He's not a wide receiver. He's a freak.
Yeah.
Nick Harbor, baby.
Yeah, Metcalf.
A under further review favorite for everybody out there. Nick Harbor, if you watch us, please, we love you.
Nick Harbor's one of my favorite players.
But Sellers doesn't have a great offensive line. It feels like every time he drops back, there's pressure in his face. So it's hard for me to sit there and be like, are we getting the full Lenore Sellers experiment here? Or are we getting something where he has a coach that just assumed that he was going to go into the season and, sleepwalk through his schedule and finish with 2 losses and make the college football playoff just because of what happened last season? I don't know. It's hard.
No, I think I think we're projecting what he could be, which is fair. I mean, that's what a lot of you do when you draft a player, right? You're projecting what they could be. My thing is with Sellers, and a lot of these teams that are picking quarterbacks are the front offices that are picking them and the coaches are picking them. This is their job, right? Like they're staking their name to this guy, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, they're out of a job. Most of them, not all of them, but most of them are. I'm not sure that there's a front office right now out there, and I could be very wrong. I know that the draft community loves Sellers and what he brings to the table, but after what I've seen this year, I've seen, and it's different. Like Cam Ward's already been invested in. He's already on the team. He's in the NFL, but I understand what you're trying to put the two together in that regard. I need to see something from this guy for me to make an investment in him. You know what I mean? Like Cam Ward had, a great college career. Sellers had one good year, and then this year, and I agree with you. I don't think it's all his fault. I do think that it's a bad system behind him. That's why I think a guy like him should go transfer. It doesn't have to be Miami. Transfer somewhere that could develop a quarterback. He's going to literally probably, if Sellers said, hey, I'm hitting the transfer portal today, I guarantee almost every team out there would sign up to try and get him. Like, I think that benefits him because let's just say Seller puts a year together like a Ty Simpson, a Mendoza, a Julian Sayin next year. You could make an argument that he would go over Sayin next year. And that's crazy talk, right? That's crazy talk. But that's where it's at. That's why I think a guy like Sellers, I'm not an NFL front office, but I would not be comfortable making an investment in a guy based off the lack of production they had this year, regardless of whether it's his fault or not, especially when I know he has 2 years of eligibility left.
Can I also tell you? Oh, go on, Kev.
With being down in Florida and being around Miami fans, as in Dolphin fans, they really want him. So there are some teams that are even fan bases. I mean, I know GMs and they don't.
Yeah, but want him first round pick? Want him like that? You think?
I mean, the fans.
Like realistically, so you guys are on the. So you seem to both be on the. Yes, you both seem to be on the same page. That if you think if he came out this year, he would find himself in the first round.
Would, yeah.
For some teams, yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
I would almost make the bet that he.
But do you think like are we talking top 10 or are we talking like back of the first round?
No, I can.
I could see kind of like how Dart kind of
exactly that makes sense to get the extra year.
Yeah, exactly. Like the back end of the first round where somebody's trading up to get that extra year.
But out of those teams that you named, like let's go back because obviously this has gone off the wire, but we got a really good conversation going. So out of those teams that you named that are arguably top 10 picks that need quarterbacks, we've got New Orleans, we've got Cleveland, you've got the Jets, and let's throw you got the Raiders. Let's exclude Miami for right now. Well, yeah, we'll throw Miami in. Okay. Out of those 5s, realistically, I just don't see a team like New Orleans doing it, personally. I don't see the Jets doing it, considering the situation Aaron Glenn and Darren Muzier are in, where they're going to be hot, if they don't get this right.
I can see
the Raiders
doing it, though.
What?
I can see Pete Carroll doing it.
Well, that's what I was getting to. The Raiders, I could see Pete Carroll doing it. And now that Kevin, you've got the Florida market, I don't. If you're saying they want him, okay, so then I could see that being his best options. But I just don't see somebody taking him over a Mendoza, a Simpson, a Moore. But I could be wrong. I mean, I've been wrong before.
Let me jump on that real quick. So that order that I just told you, that's my order right there.
Mendoza, Simpson, Moore, Sellers.
I said Sellers before Moore.
Oh, you did put him. I didn't. Okay, you did put him before Moore.
I'm not 100% sold on Moore either. And I told you that after the Penn State game, and you were like pretty upset with me when I told you that. And I know like our guy McShay, he's been high on Dante Moore the entire season.
But he also is the first one to say Moore should go back to school.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, he's the first one that says Moore should
he
go back.
Definitely go back to school. I will give you reasons though. Let's look at the Indiana game. 2 interceptions, 186 passing yards. Not going to do it. Not against the team at Indiana. Wisconsin, like I said earlier in the episode, good defense, just not a good team. He went 9 of 15, 86 yards. Didn't even find the end zone that game. And then Iowa, 13 of 21, 112 yards, 1 interception. So games that you really needed Dante Moore outside of that Penn State game in the whiteout, games that you really needed Dante Moore to step up. And I know he had that hot start to the year. He didn't step up in. So, like, how does that translate over to, like, how he's going to do in the NFL? I'll tell you, like, the game speed, I guarantee you that Iowa defense, it's just as fast, or not just as fast, but it's like that next step down from, like, just as fast, just as physical. You know, Indiana's been, you know, number 2 most of the season, and he just didn't step up in that game. He's not flashy to me. He doesn't do anything that tells me this is going to be my franchise quarterback. And now we're seeing rumors that Dan Lanning was looking around trying to, you know, he potentially could want to try to steal some quarterbacks from other teams. So I don't know. Like, if I'm reading the writing on the wall, like, maybe Lanning's not 100% sold on Dante Moore either. Maybe he wants to kind of turn the page on Dante Moore and look elsewhere.
Well, I also I think there's some friction in the Oregon. I like Kevin because I know Kevin's going to rebuttal the hell out of you. But to add to that real quick, it does seem like there's some friction at Oregon because Sadiq, is that the tight end's name, Kev? Sadiq?
Yeah, Kenyon Sadiq.
It seems like there's a lot of insiders that are coming out and talking to scouts saying he may not be a guy you want to invest a first-round pick in for his off-the-field stuff. Or, you know, not off, but there's people that don't believe in him as a person. But yeah, so I didn't know that. I'll have to look into that. But if you're saying that, it could be something. Kevin, have at him.
I mean, I feel like with Lanning, he's always looking for a transfer quarterback to come in. So, I mean, I wouldn't look too far into that just because he brought in Dante Moore when Bo Nix was still playing too. So, I mean, if there is some friction and stuff going on like that, it could be. But I personally, I mean, I like Dante Moore, but in some of the games that I have seen, I've been like, well, he does look a little rough going like you said, against Iowa, against Indiana. That Indiana game killed me because those 2 interceptions late in the game. What are you looking at? It's kind of like how Freck said with the Ty Simpson in the earlier game. Like, you can't be throwing those balls. It's just not.
Yeah, it doesn't look great.
It doesn't look great.
A game like USC this weekend.
Yeah,
but to be fair, just to go back to that game, Mendoza didn't look great in that Oregon game either.
No,
just
it was
to add
it
to
was
that.
a very. I mean, he did look decent in like I feel like the second half, but I don't feel like the stats, like either of their stats were.
No, yeah, statistically it wasn't a great game, but
No.
I just wanted to add to that Mendoza did not, and Steve actually said both quarterbacks, he did not sure that he would trust either one. And I think it was valid after that game, 100%.
Yeah. So, I mean, I do love Dante Moore. Kind of going off that, I still don't think he should come out. But
is it an experience, do you think? Like, just
I do.
Under his belt?
I mean, I feel like he does. He needs more game experience. I mean, he was a 5-star recruit going into UCLA and then he transferred to Oregon. But I feel like he just needs to show a little more. You got to grow.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah,
he was going to be one of my guys that I'd say should go back to school for sure.
And I mean, he has a very good chance because I mean, some boosters going to definitely try and get him to stay.
What was it this week that Phil Knight came out and said that Oregon has an infinite NIL?
Yeah,
like he's willing to.
Yeah, he said that. He said.
Well, Phil Knight, if you're looking, you can give us infinite NIL too. But yeah, I think more. I think he should go back to school.
And then plus, he gets another year with Malachi Moore too. He'll grow with his weapons. Yeah. Obviously, he's got to get on the same page as some of them.
See, that's a future first round Moore right there. Malachi,
yeah. He's starting as a freshman. He's going to be one of the top recruit or top prospects in 2028.
This ties me into another question: is the minimum requirements to become an NFL prospect? You got to be 21 or 3 years in college. Just side quick, I don't want to spend a lot of time on that. 2 seconds. Do you think we are getting closer to the point where we should be narrowing that down a little further? Because I do feel like the freshmen coming up are much more developed than they once were.
Maybe in a situation where I would say like a Julian Sane situation, like after the season, he should be able to, be eligible for the NFL draft. I think with
Yeah,
like the freshmen, it's tough just because like even like the freshmen we were impressed with at the quarterback position have kind of fallen off a little bit as the season's gone on. I don't think we're really talking about any of the freshmen anymore in the picture that we were, or the conversation we were having in the beginning of the season.
No.
The kid from Maryland, he's kind
Malik Washington, yeah. He's the team's petered big time.
yeah. Even the California kid, he's been up and down, and we were high on him. I think the most consistent's been what's his name from BYU.
Bachmeyer. I don't like him. I don't like him.
you just don't like BYU because of Zach Wilson.
I don't know. I don't like BYU because their quarterback wears number 47.
He's like
Yeah.
a
I
linebacker.
don't care.
Yeah,
I don't care. It's weird, and I don't get it. It just doesn't make sense. I don't like Big 12 football. I'm going to put it like out there. You know what? Somebody's got a problem. Come at me. I don't care. Big 12 football sucks.
I will say Auburn started in their freshman quarterback, Deuce Knight.
I love how he quickly changed the subject there. Like, okay.
Deuce Knight's going to be a stud.
Yeah, I know that a lot of these freshman quarterbacks. I guess I was leaning that more towards like a guy like Jeremiah Smith, Ryan Williams, Malcolm. Like, some of these guys are ready. Yeah, I think a lot of these freshman quarterbacks. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I know I like to make fun of you, and I like to pick on you. Bryce Underwood's going to be fine. I don't know if it's going to be at Michigan. He might transfer. Who knows? But he's going to be fine. The kid from California, what is it? I don't remember he's going to be fine. Malik Washington probably isn't long for Maryland. I think eventually he'll transfer out of there. He's going to be fine. Like, these kids are all going to be fine. I truly feel that way.
What did people like? Serious question though. Like, what did people expect from Underwood this year? Because like, I know like what he got paid, what people put like the way people viewed him as a recruit. They said he was like one of the better recruits we've seen in a while. But you're going to Michigan where Sherrone Moore is known to run the ball, and he has two running backs that the Michigan teams rushed for 2,400 yards this year. It's pretty damn good. They have two running backs who are, I think, above 850 rushing yards each, and Haynes and Jordan Marshall. So, like, do you think you're really going to have this kid throw for 300 yards a game? Yeah, you would have liked to see a little more from Underwood, but if you listen to Jake Butt and what's the other? Why am I drawing a blank on the other? Devin Gardner. They have a Michigan podcast. It's like they look at like the gradual growth that Underwood shows every week, and they're like, that's what you really should be looking at from these freshman quarterback is like, did they make this mistake last week and did they correct it the next week? Because that's the development that you want from your coach and from your quarterback. So it's the same thing, like I haven't watched Malik Washington enough. I haven't watched the California kid enough, but like you really hope that those guys are doing the same thing. Like maybe their stats went down a little bit, but like hopefully they're showing that like course correction for the long run.
Yeah, I think with Bryce Underwood's situation is it's different in the sense of like Michigan's it's arguably the biggest program out there. It's probably got one of the, if not the largest, top 3 largest fan bases in all of football. Yep. And I do feel like the Michigan fans built him up to be something that, and I've talked to you in the past, and I've talked to Kevin about this in the past a lot, is we put expectations on these kids that simply it's not fair. And I do feel like Bryce Underwood fell into that where he had unfair expectations. I don't think, outside of last week, he did nothing. I don't think he's done a lot to hurt his team. Has he done anything to elevate or win a game for the team? No. I'm going to be honest, no. But he hasn't hurt the team. But again, I think there were such unfair expectations placed on him. And I think you would agree at this point that a lot of the fan base put some unfair expectations on him. You see the money, you see the rating, you see all this, and you expect him to step in and be a guy that's going to throw, 30 touchdowns. And that's just not fair. He's still an 18-year-old kid. Well, yeah, 18, 19-year-old kid. He's a baby by our state. You know what I mean?
You know what he's doing. So they're doing the RPO, run pass option, and before the ball's even snapped, he's saying, I'm throwing the ball over the center, when he really should have handed it off to Jordan Marshall, because Jordan Marshall would have got around the edge for 10, 15 yards. And that's why he threw several interceptions against Northwestern this weekend, because he sat there and he made up his mind before the ball was even snapped. And he needs to get out of that habit if he wants to be a good, college quarterback. But the other thing for me is like, Did any of you guys watch his clips in high school? He's this.
I gotta be honest, I didn't until you started bragging about him. Like now I gotta find something to dislike about this guy.
If you watched his clips, it's this monster Cam Newton looking type quarterback, and he was running all over these high school offenses. But I would have expected like this quarterback who, threw for 15, 20 touchdowns and then rushed for another 700, 800 yards maybe. But we're seeing that his speed is not what we thought it was. And these defenses are closing in on him, like when he does try to get the corner or tries to take off out of the pocket. And I think that's been a little bit of an issue too, is like he's not that premier athlete that we thought he was. Maybe he is more of a pocket passer, and like we got to develop that. But I'm not going to stay on freshman quarterback or Underwood. Why don't we do picks?
Let's get to it. It's been a long episode.
Yeah.
All right, let me pull up my. You got him up, Steve, or?
I don't even remember what games we were doing.
All right, I got it. Give me 1 sec. All right, so we're gonna pick some games. It's a week of college football. Not a whole lot of games to pick, so we're gonna try and find some real quick. So we've got Missouri, Oklahoma. Oklahoma is obviously favored by 5.5. Bo Prabula is supposedly coming back this week. So I'm going to say no fluff. Oklahoma wins. I'm not going to make a prediction on points. I don't believe in that. Oklahoma wins. They coast. Prabula, if he does play, I think will be shaky, simply because of his time off. I see this as an easier win for Oklahoma at this point in time, due to the missed time for Prabula and meshing. So I'm going to go Oklahoma.
Yeah, I would say Oklahoma too, just because, they're at home. The defense just played lights out against Alabama. I feel like they're just rolling into a strong week this week.
Yep, there's not much else to that. Steve?
I agree. I hate the season for Missouri just because if you watch Missouri, they also have a great defense. And if Pribola could have just stayed healthy, I think you're talking about two teams that are looking at the playoff this year, facing off right now. And this game could have had so many indications, but because he got injured, I don't know what type of snap count Pribola is going to be on, even if he comes back this weekend. I think they might even go with a 2 quarterback type formation or a game plan. Oklahoma's the hot team. They're coming, like you said, they're coming off the big win against Alabama. They're home this weekend. This game means too much for them. I don't think they're gonna have a slip up.
Alrighty, so that we're all in favor there. The next game is going to be USC Oregon. You've got Oregon favored by 10.5. It's a game that Oregon has to have. USC obviously equally has to have it. The winner of this, fortunately, depending on how you look at it, is going to coast to the playoff. It's really hard for me to pick against Oregon. I do think USC is going to play them tough. I think that's going to be closer than the 10.5 that's stated. I could see Moore having an up and down game. I think what's going to happen is Maava is going to end up doing what he does and turn the ball over. It's going to cost him the game. I think Oregon wins this in a close game.
I agree there. It all depends on what Dante Moore shows up. And if USC shows up too, they got Lemon, great wide receiver. But I could see it being like a 5-6 point game. But yeah, I'm going to go Oregon as well.
Steve?
This is going to be a close one. I really like what Lincoln Riley's building in USC. He's got the 2 stud wide receivers in Lane and Lemon. And he's obviously got Maava at quarterback. And next year, they're going to be a force. They have I think one of the best recruiting classes, right, in 2026 coming in. So Riley has some of his better days in front of him. I just don't think it's going to be Saturday. And I'll tell you what the biggest reason for me, it's at Oregon. And you guys know by now, Oregon's in the stadium's in the middle of nowhere. It's this tiny stadium that they just pack everyone into, and it just gets so loud, and it's impossible for away teams to come in and ever feel comfortable in that stadium. And they have Dan Lanning, and Dan Lanning's a heck of a coach. So
very good coach.
I think when it matters, you're just waiting all season for Oregon to turn it on. And it feels like this is the weekend that they're going to do it.
Alrighty. So we're all in favor there. Look at that continuity. So we're going to do Pittsburgh, Georgia Tech, just because it does have playoff implications for Georgia Tech, obviously. And the game is a lot closer. That Georgia Tech's only favored by 2.5. I'm going to be honest here. Probably a game not worth picking. I think Georgia Tech blows them out. I'd be shocked if they don't. Georgia Tech wins this. They keep coasting into that Georgia game, and then we really get to see what it's all about, and we get to see if Georgia Tech can find a way into that ACC championship game. So I'm going to pick Georgia Tech. Like I said, it's only 2.5. I expect a blowout, though.
Yeah, I don't see it as a blowout, but I definitely see a Georgia Tech winning, maybe by a touchdown. just because they do play smash mouth football. And I don't know. I mean, I haven't watched much of Pittsburgh, but it's kind of hard to stop that smash mouth kind of football.
Yeah. It's going to come down to the end of the game. Doozy, when he was about to face Notre Dame a week ago, he already said that he didn't care if he lost to Notre Dame by 100. What mattered was the final 2 ACC games he has, which are Doozy has Georgia Tech this weekend, and then he has Miami the following weekend. So I don't think there's a harder way to finish your season in the ACC, but Pitt's still in the hunt. They win these next 2 games somehow by a miracle. I think they're in the ACC championship game, so I think they're going to battle. They have a pretty good freshman quarterback. They have a running back who's been with their team, 2-3 years now, who's been really good. They're not a slouch, and Georgia Tech, they worry me. I mentioned the Boston College game, like they didn't show up for that, but maybe they were looking ahead a little bit. Possibility, but I do think Georgia Tech, comes out on top, but I think it's going to be closer than you might think.
Alrighty. So our last game we're going to do, my favorite game, BYU Cincinnati. Yeah, the BYU's going to win. I don't care. BYU's going to win.
Big 12 football, you don't care?
Yeah, Big 12 football, I don't care. BYU's going to win. In all fairness, Bachmeier's shown himself to be a decent quarterback. Sorsby, obviously we know where he stands. BYU's favored by 3. They've found a way to win for the most part throughout the year. BYU's a better team. And actually, if you wanted me to go a step further, I expect them to get in the playoff as the Big 12 champion. So I'm going to pick BYU in this game. I think they do enough. It's probably a close game, and I think this leads to your, Big 12 championship. BYU inevitably ends up winning.
I'll be the odd man out here. I mean, at least for now. I think I'm gonna go with Cincinnati, just because I haven't watched much of them, but I know the one game I was watching. I don't know, it was against Texas Tech, but they were battling them hard.
Yeah, it was a Texas Tech game, I do believe.
And it was in the beginning of the year. I don't know if they pulled it out, but I think it's going to be a very close game. But I'm going to say Cincinnati pulls that out at home.
Yeah, I've been bouncing back and forth on this one, actually. I almost went with Cincinnati because, I'm waiting for that game that BYU just, that game that everyone's like, all right, they should win. They should have that pathway to the Big 12 championship game, and then they just don't show up. And I think this is going to be a high-scoring affair, and that worries me because you have the freshman quarterback against Sorsby, who's been in college for several seasons now, and you almost feel like Sorsby would get it done in that situation. But I don't know. I have a hard time picking against BYU right now. The number 11 team in the nation. Cincinnati's coming off 2 straight losses that kind of knocked them out of any type of, I don't know. I guess they had playoff hopes at one point when they were a 1-loss team, but then got blown out by Texas Tech. Yeah, that ended quickly. I think at this point they're trying to play Cinderella ender, or taking the glass slipper from the Cinderella story here, and I don't think it's going to happen this weekend. Once again, probably a close one, high scoring. I would take the over on this one, but I think BYU comes out on top.
It is an 8 p.m. game. You never know. They might do a blackout.
Great. It's perfect time for me to go to bed. Just snooze that one. Yeah, I just, if anybody that watches us learned, last episode, it seemed like I made some really good points that people enjoyed. I imagine I'm probably going to piss a lot of people off with this one on TikTok. So
I'm going to cut up the BYU and Utah talk.
I think you should 100%. Listen, you know what? Make this a point. If there's a Big 12 fan out there that could tell me why the Big 12 even remotely is deserving of competing against the Big 10 or the SEC or the ACC, please give me good points as to why they should be in over anybody in the playoff, because those teams are going to be the first ones to get their ass whooped.
Or make a point for Tulane. I'd love to see something.
Yeah. Oh yeah, if there happens to be one Tulane fan out there, that the 1 or 2 that are out there that are watching, please let us know why they deserve to be in the playoff. Because all you guys, I'm going to say it, and this is, what, Steve, you can cut this up. I'm going to say it. The Big 12 and Tulane are ruining our chances of getting a better playoff.
Hopefully they expand it.
With that.
You know what? They're keeping, teams like Georgia Tech and some of the SEC teams like Vanderbilt right now, Texas, all these schools are better, and I'd rather see them play than a Big 12 team get beat by 60. Whatever.
It is what it is at this point. Only 12 can make it.
Put Rutgers in the Big 12, and I'll tell you why the Big 12's bad.
Rutgers is not beating BYU. Let's be real.
Rutgers would be a 8-win team in the Big 12.
That's not playoff football, though.
I mean, it's close right now.
I was about to say, what do you mean it's not? We got Utah. They're 8-2.
That's true.
Arizona State 7.
Yeah, no, Rutgers right now, I would take all right, just real quick, and then we're going to end this because I got to go to bed. But if you take Rutgers, Maryland, give me another one of the bottom dwellers, Purdue, and put them in the Big 12, you don't think that they rip off, at worst, 6 or 7 wins?
I think a team like Northwestern could be a Big 12 champion.
Okay, yeah. I think all those teams could. I think that you take the bottom 4 teams from the Big 10. Relegation. If you're good, you get to move up. If you're bad, you get to move down. You take the 4 worst teams in the Big 10 and the 4 best teams in the Big 12 and swap them, and I guarantee you it pretty much stays the same.
I'm telling you, when we do our Big 10 rankings for coaches, that Northwestern coach is going to be higher than people think.
Probably. I think me and you both are favorable on him. Kevin's going to put Dan Lanning at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all the way to 18.
Okay.
But
in front of Brian did.
All right, Steve, close it out.
All right, yeah, that's an episode, boys. Yeah, I'm gonna cut up clips, so we'll have them out through the weekend. Pretty boring slate of football, so I don't think too much is gonna happen to that college football picture unless we see a massive upset. But we'll be back next week. In the meantime, check us out on YouTube. Give us the subscription. Put on the little bell to get the alerts when we put out an episode. And
it's called a notification.
Yeah, notifications. Follow us on social media. We're active there. So at Under Further Review Pod. But thanks for joining along, and we'll see you next week.
Later.
What's in
I don't know.
later?